My name's Robin Bennett, and I am one of the co-founders of the Dog Gurus. Susan Brigg is over there with the beautiful purple because she just had her office repainted. Now I'm jealous because it looks so bright and fun. But anyway, she's the other co-founder of the Dog Gurus, and we help pet care businesses launch, grow, and profit. So what we are going to talk about today, we want to talk about how many of you potentially are feeling a bit stressed these days. That's what we're going to talk about. So if that sounds like you, just let us know that. We do know that it has been really a long time of angst. It started last year, literally back in March of last year when COVID hit and the world, the bottom kind of dropped out for all of us with no reservations and everything changing and then moving forward to where the world started opening up. And all of that in itself was extremely stressful, as we all know. But this year, I feel like I just saw someone post yesterday. I thought last year was bad. I think this year is worse.
I know.
And I think there's a lot of us that feel that way. We're now business, and you hate to complain. We're just going to tell you, you have permission to be honest right now during this Facebook Live. I know a lot of people are like, I hate to complain because last year I had no business. But this year, I'm like overwhelmed. I don't have staff. I can't get staff to come in and I have too many dogs. And so it's one of those like where we like to say it's a good problem to have, but
doesn't make it easier.
At the moment, it's not a good problem to have really. So I know it's causing us, it's a good problem to have short term where you can fix. The problem is for most pet care facilities, they haven't been able to fix it. So that idea of we have a lot of business, all we need to do is hire a few staff hasn't played out as well as we thought it would. And so a lot of people are still really struggling with overwhelm and understaffing problems. So that's what we want to talk about, is just how to regroup, keep your motivation up, because especially if you are the pet care business owner, you're leading your team, and we all know that you have to do a good job of that because they're going to take their clues from you. So we want to talk a little bit about that and a little about how to get people rejuvenated and even when they're feeling overwhelmed. So Kendall's here. Hey, Kendall.
And Katie.
Here from California, and Katie's here. I was just talking to Katie not too long ago on a mastermind. So, and Amanda's here too. So Amanda said she's saving this to watch later. Awesome. All right. What do you want to kick off with, Susan? Anything in particular?
I think I'm going to kick off with, you've got to take care of yourself and your mental well-being before your team. It's that thing about put your oxygen mask on first, because what I realized, and it took a while in my business, that you're the weather forecast for the team. Or if you're not in your business every day, it would be your GM or other leadership. So you should work with them, but they're going to take their cues for you. So if you wear yourself down to where you're overly stressed and don't have that positive energy, you're going to see your whole team impacted by that. So I think it's really important that you focus on this, because 15 months or going on more than that is too long to have this much stress. I've just had a lot of stress for 2 months, and I can't imagine multiplying that and having it for 15 months. So I think giving yourself grace and permission that this is not normal and that you really need to ramp up how you take care of yourself so that you have energy in your battery for your team.
Yeah, and I love the analogy of the oxygen mask, and you have to put your own oxygen mask on first before you put on your child's. And they say that every time if you're on a plane or whatever. But I totally think that's true. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs are used to working with little sleep, and they're just the makeup of most entrepreneurs, which most of you business owners are entrepreneurs. You have that you can just go like the Energizer Bunny, and you think that it's not a problem. I can tell you 15 months of that is going to be a problem. It's going to show up somewhere. And unfortunately, you may not notice it until you start getting issues with your staffing, or maybe, and outside of just the fact that you can't hire staff, but on your current staff may start to notice that you're more grumpy, or you're just you're just more easily irritated. Or it might be your family or your friends. Like my husband and I are really good about telling each other, wow, okay, like what is going on because you're a bit snappy today. You want people in your life that can have that relationship with you to be like, okay, you need to do something because obviously the stress is starting starting to come out. Or it may be that you get sick. That's where
Yes.
we see it most often. We see people that are going and going, and then all of a sudden they'll get really sick. And have you ever noticed, if you're one of these people, that you finally get a vacation and as soon as your vacation starts, you get sick? And then you're like, I spent the whole week of vacation sick. That is your body telling you you have run yourself down.
Yeah.
And I do think your body knows, okay, we can't afford to get sick right now, like too much going on. When you finally do get sick, it's you're going to get really sick.
Yeah.
Or when your body finally relaxes enough to where you're like, okay, things are easing up, it's going to hit you then because your immune system has been compromised.
Right.
So I just can't stress enough that if you're not taking time for yourself, you really need to figure out how to do that. So that brings me to my next question, which is going to be all of those folks that are going to say, there's no way I can take off
Right.
because we know many of you now working back in your business as an employee, as one of the staff members. We know tons of pet care facility owners who are working shifts alongside of their staff now. Some of them, that was always the normal way. But for most of our
Yeah.
businesses that we work with, our goal is to try to get the pet care business owner working on the business instead of in it. But we know a lot of people that are having to go back to cover shifts because they're so understaffed. So knowing that's an issue, I know that some of you are just going to roll your eyes and go, I would love to have self-care, but I don't have time. So what would you say to that, Susan? How we All
And we're
right,
back.
we're back. I don't know what happened. We got a message saying Facebook stopped our broadcast. What is that about?
I know. Because this is an
Oh,
important topic.
it's one of those topics Facebook did not want you to know about. Yeah, so we'll wait a second and see if some folks can find us back again. All right, we have a couple people finding us.
Okay.
So we just said, literally, I got a big message across my screen that said, Facebook stopped your broadcast. We've never had that happen
No.
before. Okay, we're just going to pick up where we left off. So I was just saying to Susan, like, if people are going to think to
Mm.
themselves, I think definitely I should take time off, but how do I get time off when I have all these dogs to take care of and I don't have enough staff? So what would you say to that? And hopefully Facebook won't kick us off this time.
Exactly. Well, I'm going to say you have to find a way, or what's going to happen is what Robin said, you're going to get sick and your body's going to force you to take time off and you're not going to have control over it. So you're going to have to figure out a way. And I know it's hard right now because there is a lot of volumes, but I think even if you can take one whole day, even if it's midweek, you need to do it. The other thing we're finding that a lot of members of ours and followers are doing is they're lowering the numbers of dogs because they recognize that not only are they needing time off, but their team is needing relief, that there's just not the team there to support maximum volumes. And so I think finding a way that works for your business, like we have Carrie who does all daycare, so she's just Monday through Friday. During the summer, they decided to close on Fridays. So they're only working 4 days a week. And then that way everybody has 3 days off. If you do lodging, I know that's hard, but you may need to shorten hours on weekends or, like we say, reduce the volumes and maybe even look at doing different shifts. This is where I would get together with your team and just have an honest conversation that we know that everybody's running ragged. So let's get creative and what would work best for you. Maybe working 4 10-hour days versus 5 8-hour days would be preferred by your team. And I think you've got to do something for self-preservation.
Yeah, and I will say, talking about team, like we know we are feeling the pressure because we're understaffed and you're trying to hire and get some relief in that situation. But just think about the staff that is stuck with you, especially those staff members who stuck with you all last year. If you have those people still, they went through the stress of maybe getting furloughed, maybe getting laid off, maybe having their hours reduced, or maybe they just kept working through that whole stressful period. And the whole stress of dealing with masks and clients wearing masks and having to work their shifts in masks, which was a little harder and unusual for most of us. And they stuck through all of that. And now they're going through a lot of stress too, of feeling the pressure from not having enough employees. So it's not just important to take care of yourself, but take care of them. So some of this, I love the idea that Susan just mentioned about getting your team together and really talking about it and saying, okay, what can we do to help all of us? Because they need to make sure that you need to make sure they know you've got their back too. And you're not just going to work them to death,
Yeah.
basically. Because if you do, you're not taking care of your most valuable asset, which is
Yeah.
that team member, and especially the team member that has stuck with you through this whole thing. You definitely want to make sure you're not just burning them out. So I definitely think that you want to look at some of the suggestions Susan said. Can you close 1 day a week? Can you close just certain hours, even if it means putting all the dogs in enclosures
Yeah.
and just everybody put your feet up, eat something, take a break, talk. Some way, obviously, you want to make sure the dogs are supervised. So I wouldn't do that if all the dogs are out playing.
Yeah.
But and that's what I did at my facility just during normal times. We had 2 hours every day where every single dog was in an enclosure. And that was when we did some cleaning and we did lunches and that kind of thing. But it does give you a huge mental break as well. So doing something like that, can you reduce the hours? Maybe maybe there's certain hours that really not a lot gets done anyway. Can you open later or close earlier or whatever? Did I say that
Even
right?
close midday for a couple of
Yeah,
hours.
closing the day. Even just so even if you're not taking walking clients, just getting a break from that. But something, the other thing we've seen a lot of people do is put restrictions on the number of dogs they'll take. And now this gets to be a little iffy because you have to know your pricing to figure out if this will work for you. But temporarily, even if you are going to lose a little money, it may be beneficial rather than losing everything and getting yourself sick and getting your team demoralized.
Yeah.
It may be worth saying, okay, can we just not take as many dogs for a certain period of time? And so you reduce the number of dogs. If you hopefully increase prices at some point during COVID, if you haven't, now's a really good time to do that as well. Increase pricing so you don't have to have as many dogs. But we know a lot of people that have they now have a wait list. They are not taking new clients
Right.
and they're just building that wait list for later when they have the staffing. And meanwhile, they're taking care of their current clients and especially those ones, again, that have been loyal to you. And they're taking care of their staff by just reducing the numbers. So taking care of yourself, taking care of your staff, and then lastly, taking care of the dogs. You cannot continue to operate at a high volume when you're understaffed. What will happen is dogs will get hurt. And so if you're not going to do it for yourself and you're not going to do it for the staff, you better do it for the dogs because
Right.
all of those things though are important. So we really want you to do it for all of those reasons. But the flat out reality is when your staff is not well trained. So even as you start hiring staff, you want to make sure they're trained before you throw them into a ton of dogs. When your staff is not well trained, when they're tired, when they have too many dogs, and there are best practices for industry standards for staffing, when you start to exceed those, the reason those best practices exist is because when you exceed them, you get dogs injured or
Right.
killed. And so that's going to start happening as well. And most of the people that we know that have restricted the number of dogs, that's the reason they've done it. They've said, we just can't take in this many dogs because if we do, dogs are going to get hurt because we don't have enough staff for the number of dogs we have. All right, now Susan just got kicked off the broadcast. Facebook does not want us to talk about this issue today. All right, so Lauren says it's a service business. I have to work the hours that my clients need me or I wouldn't have clients. Okay, this is a great point also, Lauren, we were going to talk about, and that is really having honest communication with your clients to let them know what's going on. And yes, it's definitely a service business, but you also have the responsibility of taking good care of those pets. So being able to have that conversation with your clients to say, look, these are the hours I need to work, or these are the hours I need to adjust to. And I just said, Susan, now Susan just got kicked off. So I don't know what's going on
I know.
with the world today. Anyway, I was answering Lauren's question
Okay.
about, she said it's a service business and I have to work the hours my clients need me. So yeah, I think to some extent that's true, but we have also seen huge support from most of
Right.
our facilities that have gone to their clients and said, look, this is what we're experiencing. This is why we need to adjust things. This is what
Right.
we're doing to make sure that your dogs are safe. And 90% of the time, the feedback we're getting is the clients totally
Yeah.
understand. So I would
Right.
have that conversation with your.
Absolutely. The business that closed on Fridays, yeah, they had to work with the clients who usually came on Friday, but they had that honest conversation. And the thing is, your clients want you to be there long term and they want you to have quality staff members. And this is not sustainable. If you don't take care of yourself and you help your team take care of themselves, they're going to leave. And then you won't be able to take care of any of the clients. So I think that it's challenging to do this, but again, working with your clients, giving them notice and making it a win-win. The 90% are going to support you because they want you there long term. And probably they can relate. This is a societal stress induced period that's people are just frustrated.
Yeah, and I think we've seen it not just in the pet industry. You can go to restaurants right now and you'll see signs on the door that say, "Be nice to our current staff, at least
Yeah.
they showed up today," kind of thing. And we've waited, gone out to a couple restaurants that we always used to go to all the time pre-COVID. And we love those restaurants. And there's a little bit of frustration because it's we never used to wait this long. But then we have to remind ourselves, at least these people, like we look around and we're like, this place is packed. And they
Yeah.
definitely don't have the same staff that they used to have pre-COVID. And we just understand that. And we just say, we're just like, we'll just get another drink from the bar and hang out and wait to
Yeah.
eat. Like we just make the best of it. But I think having those conversations, because in one of those restaurants, we were sitting there and I guess it was the supervisor or the manager came around to all the tables and was just like checking in and thanking us for being patient. And a little bit of that goes a long way. And I don't think anyone is going to be surprised by the fact that you say you're understaffed and you're trying to hire and you're trying to get things back to normal. Now, that being said, those clients who have been with you, that's the other reason for not taking new clients at the moment, taking that wait list, because you do want to take care of those clients that have been with you for years, and especially the ones that supported you through COVID when you might have had to shut down. We know so many situations where clients kept paying even though they weren't bringing their dogs. So yeah, you definitely want to help those clients, but I think there's a way to do it that still preserves your sanity and keeps you healthy and keeps you safe and the dog safe as well. So I
Yeah,
think
I mean, another idea is maybe you don't close one day a week, but maybe rather than having three people in for the start of the day shift, you only have one or two so that the other person gets a little extra time in the morning. And some of the dogs, when they arrive, stay in enclosures, and not everybody goes to a play group right away. Maybe the play groups start a little later, and maybe the play groups end a little earlier. So you're still able to take care of the client on hours they need, but the day just looks a little different so that you're giving staff members a break and you're changing your scheduling hours up a little bit in the operations so that client wins, dogs are taken care of, but your team's also taken care of.
yeah, and hopefully, honestly, Susan and I thought all of this would be fixed by Labor Day.
Yeah.
We no longer think that. But back when COVID started, nobody knew that it was going to last as long as it was going to, obviously. But then as it progressed and the vaccine started to roll out, Susan and I started saying, we are going to be swamped. The floodgates are going to open. And that's exactly what happened. We did not anticipate the staffing issues. And then when we saw the staffing issues, we thought, well, that'll all get fixed by Labor Day. I don't think it's going to be fixed
Yeah.
by Labor Day. And that's the thing is I think this is going to go on for longer. And I personally think that it's going to change the way that the pet care, well, really all service industries
Yeah.
hire and pay their staff and work with their teams. And I think it's going to affect a lot of that long term. So
Yeah.
I think it's a fundamental shift in what we're doing with our teams.
Yeah. An HR recruiter that I follow had an article this week in a newsletter she sent out, and she pointed out that the number one priority for people looking for jobs is flexibility. They want flexibility on whether they work from home or an office, but that doesn't apply to service because most of the roles in services you have to be there. But then they want flexibility in their shifts or how many days they work. And Robin, we've talked about on other Facebook Lives about staffing that I think our industry is going to have to change the mindset that you work every weekend, you work every holiday, and then has to be a full-time 8-hour shift. A lot of our members are working with shorter shifts and more part-time schedules because people just mentally, they know they can't handle a 40-hour work shift, but maybe they would be willing to do 24 or 32. That could help you if you had a couple of people that were willing to do that. So you've got to start being flexible if you aren't already, and promoting that in your career pages and job ads.
Yeah, and I would definitely get the current team you have together and brainstorm ideas with them because they know people that theoretically they could invite to come and work with
Yeah.
your business, but they may also know reasons that those people might not want to come. And so I would talk to them because they probably have some ideas for how, not just how you can change things temporarily right now to save everyone's sanity, but also what you might want to change in terms of bringing in other employees into the future. Because I do think we're going to have reset at a new normal over time. And all of the things you're doing right now, changing your schedule to get a little bit more downtime or to be able to take a few hours off. I would recommend a day off at least for the business owner. And I would just put that on your calendar. But you also need to train your teams to know how to handle the most common occurrences that come up and take care of them themselves. So you want to start grooming your team for that. So that you're not always having to be there because they rely so much on you. So even just getting out of there, the best way to do that, get out of there for a few hours.
Yeah.
And most of the time your team will step up and do a great job. So that's awesome. Diane said that we close noon to 2 every day just so we can get caught up. And that's exactly what my
Yeah.
schedule was at my facility. Was I was closed from 12 to 2 every day as well. So even if you're just doing something like that, if that's not normal, or maybe you add another 2-hour block if you're already closing for 2 hours, you just want to figure out what will it take to get your staff some downtime, and then looking at yourself, what can you do to literally get out of the office and take care of yourself and disconnecting. So I went for a walk today. It's like total side note. Usually I walk in the afternoon with my dog, but it's going to be hot today. So I walked this morning and I got like half a block away and I was like, I don't have my phone. And then I spent like the next 3 minutes completely freaking out because I didn't have my phone. And I was like, you know what? This is awesome. I don't have my phone. Nobody can get a hold of me.
That's right.
And normally I listen to podcasts or stuff while I'm walking, but I was like, it's probably a lot healthier for me because it was about an hour long, about an hour and 15-minute walk, but which isn't that long, but that's the mentality. How many of you are like fine with not having your phone for an hour and 15 minutes? I literally had like 3-minute freak out about it to where I was debating, should I walk back and go get it? Or then I'm going to not have enough time because I have to be on this other thing. And then I was like this whole internal argument, but I got to tell you, I really like that walk because nobody could get
Yeah, exactly. Maybe once a week you need to walk without your phone.
I just do it all the time, walk
There
without
you
my
go.
phone out. But
But
I literally am saying like disconnect, get away from your office, do something where people just can't get a hold of you.
yeah. I think getting out and being outside in nature where you're not doing it as part of your business, maybe you are going for walks with your own dogs or just going for a walk yourself, is really important. I know yesterday when the move was coming back in the house, it was a really stressful day. And one of my vagabond locations was my friend Jess, who had a pool, and I just floated in the water for an hour. And let me tell you,
That's awesome.
calmed me, and just, it was what I needed at that time. And so you have to know yourself and what you need. If I didn't have my daily meditation time, I don't think I would have made it through this time period. So it's really, even your self-care can be little things like that you carve out for yourself and you honor, to just give yourself that time for release and reset.
Yeah, and I will say the other thing that generally happens is, number one, just telling yourself there is a boatload of work to be done right now. And I know, especially if you're understaffed, there's even more work than usual because you have all your normal business owner stuff. And now you have whatever work that you might have to fill in for because you don't have enough staff. So there's a lot of work. But first of all, the safety of the dogs is number one. Every single thing else, it's going to be there when you get back to it. And so really trying to figure out the main priorities. So pick the one or two things outside of keeping the dog safe, because obviously that's the priority when you're in pet care, keeping the animal safe. But other than that, think of the 1 to 2 things a day that you really need to do. And everything else, just let it go. Like, just don't worry about it. At some point, those other things are going to hit the I have to do it today, but don't try to kill yourself getting as much done. Like, I will say for me, because I am super goal driven and I like to check things off of lists. That's just how I am. I like to make a list of a lot of things because then I get to check off a lot of things. But that's not all that healthy, because sometimes I find myself going, I'll just work 1 more hour because then I can check these other 4 things off.
Mm.
So many years ago, I shifted to having fewer things on my list, because I'm just telling you, I couldn't, if there were things to check off, I would just keep working. And I literally, it was like, it's stupid, but that's just how my brain works. I literally just had to stop putting things on my list. I'd be like, that's got to be on tomorrow's list, because look at all the things I already have on today's list. And we are notoriously bad at judging how much time anything's going to take. And so if that's something that you do, like, just figure out the 1 or 2 things you have to do. Everything else can wait. Right now, everything else can wait. Just make sure the dogs are being taken good care of. And I really, really would say most of my best ideas in terms of figuring out a way out of something. So when you're stuck, and this is not just during this period of time, this is
Right.
like just what I've learned about my own thought processes. And I think this is pretty common when you're trying to figure out what can I do, or what's a new way to do something, or I'm trying to brainstorm ideas. The best ideas come when you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
So when you're
We
filling,
call each other all the time, either after the shower, you're notorious in the shower, or and I would be driving back from the gym in the mornings. And
yeah. So I'd call Susan. I'd be like, I just got out of the shower. And she's like, oh, she's gonna have some idea now,
yeah, that's right.
because it's when, or and now a lot of times when I go for walks,
Yeah.
that I'll just be thinking, like, I'm not really thinking about anything, and all of a sudden, like, the greatest idea pops in my head. So that's the other reason to give
Mhm.
yourself that downtime. One, it's going to make you healthier, but two, you're going to probably find a way out of some of this through that time when you're not staying constantly busy and constantly in motion. So Kim said downtime to me is watching your old videos.
Oh,
I had to get a
Kim.
root canal last week and rewatched your enrichment video. That's awesome. That's a great thing. I didn't know you could watch a video while you're doing a root canal. That's even better. I'm gonna do that next time I have to go to the dentist. I'm be like, can I watch some things on my iPad? That's awesome.
That's
And Katie said my list is so big, things are dropping off the bottom of it. Yeah, because Katie, you're a lot like me, like in that sense. I literally had to stop. I literally, for a while, I literally would start writing times next to everything on my list. So this, like the very first time
yeah.
I did this, I was like, I'm gonna get all this stuff done today. And then I like spent like 15 minutes and I wrote the amount of time it was gonna take me. It was like 14 hours. And I was like, that's just ridiculous.
This
But
is.
I just had to see it. And really it was more than 14 hours because I was underestimating most of those times anyway, is what I've learned. But but until I did that, to me, every morning I would be like, I'm gonna get all this done.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was just basically setting myself up for failure every day, or working myself to the bone, which wasn't healthy either. So if you're doing that, definitely try to figure out a new system.
And I think the other thing that I've had to do for myself during my short period of stress is I just like M&Ms after lunch is like the thing that gave me joy. And so I know I shouldn't be eating M&Ms every day, but it was I need to give myself a little grace, because if this is helping me get through this period, then you know what? There's worse things than eating M&Ms every day. So
Yes,
I think
I think that's great.
we've got to not be hard on yourself for whatever kind of thing is helping you get through. Now, you have to have other things in your life that keep you healthy and not get rid of everything. But I do think just giving yourself permission for a while to maybe not be on a normal eating plan or exercise plan, as long as you haven't totally given everything up, it's okay. You'll get back to it. You'll find that new normal. But yeah,
Yeah, and I guess the biggest thing is really just give yourself a break, because I was saying a few months ago, I was like, this is a marathon, not a sprint. Now I'm like, this is a triathlon. It's no longer a marathon. It's like
yeah,
something bigger than a
yeah,
marathon. But if you're still in that sprint mentality, you're like just running on the hamster wheel, just stop. You have to stop.
yeah,
And it means that some of your business is probably going to fall off, and because maybe you're going to put restrictions on, but keep in touch with those clients, but for the safety of the dogs and your team and yourself, you have to start putting boundaries in place to make sure that you're keeping your business as a whole alive, because this is really about long term. Can you survive this long term? And I think we're in for several more months of this. I'm hopeful that as school starts getting
Yeah.
back, most places are starting to go back to school, that there'll be a little bit of a breather where people are like, okay, maybe I can find staff now, and we're not as busy in lodging. Probably daycare is still going to pick up or maybe get busier because of school. But then before it, the holidays are going to be here. So
Yeah.
you're going to be right back into heavy lodging for the holidays. So I don't think things are going to change that much between now and the end of the year. So you
Right.
definitely want to plan for it, and you definitely want the staff around for the holidays when your business is going to start picking back up again. So we definitely just want to help you to just basically give you permission to say, don't take all those dogs.
Yeah.
Just
You know,
temporarily stop, and
and
make sure you're
we
taking care of yourself.
yeah, and we mentioned earlier that we had clients or know people, businesses that are stopped taking new clients and putting them on a wait list. And I do think that's an easy way to manage the number of dogs. Just make sure you've got a wait list process and that you communicate with them and keep them updated as to what's going on. But that way you're rewarding and taking really great care of the dogs and clients that have been with you for a long time. And you still have a way to reach out when you have more capacity. So I think that's a good start. If you haven't been able to do anything and it can just be temporary, but it's worth it. You don't want to lose this core team. And unfortunately, if you don't check in with them, you may lose them.
Yeah, and I think the hardest part of all of this really is, and I just want to acknowledge it, is mentality that we in the pet industry, we love obviously the pets. And the hardest thing to get over is the feeling that, well, if I don't take that dog, what are they going to do? And I realize that's a horrible thing to consider, and that we all want to help as many dogs as possible. But like Susan said, long term, your longevity in this is going to allow you to serve the most dogs the best way possible, not cramming as many dogs right now as you can into an understaffed facility where you're overwork yourself and overworking your team, and because that's just a recipe for disaster for a whole bunch of reasons that we talked about. So I know there is a little bit of that, but they have to have it, or they're going to be, where are they going to go? Or but you really have to put your team and yourself and the health of those entities, as well as the safety of all the dogs that you're taking care of, that has to come first. And
You know, I just thought of something else that you could do is simplifying. We talk about simplifying, and maybe you reduce your menu of options, or even some of the services that aren't as popular, just stop doing them, because focus on where you get the most bang for your buck, the most popular, and simplify so people don't feel like they're stretched so many different directions.
yeah, I love that idea. That's an awesome idea. Especially if you have a lot of different activities going on
Yeah.
throughout the day, or a lot of different options for the client. Maybe you just reduce them. Again, it could be temporarily. It could be temporary. It could end up being permanent. You could find that, oh, they really didn't need those other two things anyway. But it is anything you can do. And again, your team is probably going to have some really good ideas of what would make their life easier. Because if you're stressed out, I'm sure they are too. And they're feeling your stress as well.
And the dogs are feeling everybody's stress, which is what
Exactly.
makes it more challenging and why you may have more incidents.
Yeah.
Um,
So hopefully this has helped to give you a little bit of a few ideas of how you can get back on track, and hopefully continue to be motivated for your team and not have injuries, because that's the biggest thing we don't want to see.